Okay, I think we're ready. I'm going to turn this on in a little bit. I'm going to turn it on. We are here streaming from the CASP building for our Lunch and Learn for parents. Possibly going to be looking at making some changes to this so we can upload it so people can actually just listen to it on their own time later, maybe on YouTube or podcast. We will upload this to YouTube after today, just so everybody can have access to it, and then we'll do an audio recording of it also. So today, we're going to be talking about routines, structure, and discipline, our kiddos. And I know that we have different kids of different age groups. I think a lot of this will apply from the youngest of our children to the oldest of our children, even to my 13-year-old, who still, as much as he might not like to admit it, needs good structure and discipline and routines in his life. So I'll start with kind of just reflecting on the way that I feel like routine helped shape me as a kid in ways that at the time I didn't really appreciate, but looking back on it, I do now. So I remember very clearly that every day after school, when I was in elementary school, my school was right across the street from my house, and so we would walk across the street to school, walk home every day after school, 3:45. And I don't remember how this started or why. I don't remember there ever being a conversation about this. It was just like an expectation that the first thing we did was get a little bit of a snack. My mom always had cookies, or I don't even mean homemade cookies. I mean just like store-bought, the cheap ones, and Kool-Aid or lemonade for us. And she'd say, have a snack and then get to work on your homework. I mean, immediately. There was no gap. It was just like, go to the bathroom, get a snack, start working on your homework. And for as long as it took. In elementary school, it took us maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And then the expectation was, all right, I'm going to cook dinner. You guys go outside and play. Of course, we grew up in the 90s. We all lived outside all the time. And that's what we did. We went outside and we played in the backyard, and we played Power Rangers and Cops and Robbers and basketball and rode our bikes. Or if the weather was bad, we would go to our rooms and we'd play games or Nintendo. And then it was dinner time, and we all sat around the table and we ate whatever mom cooked. And after that was TV time. You could watch, we got to watch our shows. And of course, as a kid, I was a nerd and I loved watching Dateline. And so that's what I would watch in the evenings until my mom made me go to bed, because I was all about, like the serial killers and the disappearances and things like that. And that was it. And like that, it was so predictable, and I don't remember there ever being any complaints about it. Like none of us were ever like grumbling, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to do my homework right now, or can I do it later? It was just, we're going to get it done. And looking back on it, I can appreciate that now, because it helped me develop a lot of skills that I think really helped me down the road. Time management, learning how to wait for things, and then like balancing work versus play, being able to get an equal amount of both of those things, so you come home, you get the work done, then you get to go out and play, and then you get to enjoy the rest of your evening, as opposed to playing first and then having to scramble at the last minute to get all your homework done before the night's over, and so you got to balance, you got to have a good even amount of both of those. Like I said, we never had like a family meeting. There wasn't like my mom didn't make a poster board with a chart on it and put it on the wall. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I think that's actually not a bad thing to do for families, especially if you're starting out trying to implement schedules and routines and things like that. But it was just kind of a natural rhythm and kind of a natural flow for our lives, for every single one of us. I think what helped is that my mom is and was a very structured, routine type person. And so the fact that she had a routine that she kind of lived by helped naturally make that true for us. I can't say that I'm perfect at that for my kids right now. I think I have this idea in my head of what I want that to look like, but it doesn't always look like that. And yet, when it doesn't happen, I can see how there are negative consequences to that, right? So like, we don't keep a consistent bedtime routine, or when there's not a consistent homework routine, or when dinner is off, even like we can't eat at the right time at the same time, or we don't do things the same way all the time, it does feel off. It feels like it just kind of puts everything behind, right? But when there is structure, when there's order, when there's routine, I really do believe that kids thrive in a setting like that. It kind of creates this safety and this security and this predictability that, as much as kids might complain about that, they actually need, and I do think they enjoy it more. They're happier when that exists. And so those are the kinds of things that we're going to talk about today. Maybe as I'm talking about that, you're thinking back on your own childhood, and just some of the routines and rhythms of life that you had in your family. I think that's really what it comes down to, is kind of implementing these things not as a phase or a fad, but as a rhythm of life, right? Like, this is just how my life is operated. We have routines in our lives right now, right? We go to work at a certain time, we do a certain amount of work, we go home and cook dinner. There are a lot of things in our lives that are kind of just predictable and expected, right? And we benefit from that. And even the people who tend to be more sporadic and kind of adventurous, I think still like to have plans and predictability. And our kids, it's true for our kids too. So we're going to take a little bit of time, look at some of the science behind that. What does the research say about how routines and structure and predictability is good for a kid's brain? What kind of skills does it help them to develop? How are they benefited when it comes to sleep and emotion regulation and cognitive development and thinking and independence and things like that. And then we'll talk about what we can be doing. And so if we want to make changes in this area, how can we begin to make those changes? And I have a handout for all of you here in a little bit that we'll look at some of the practical, I'll go ahead and do it to you now, practical applications of this and what it might look like in your family lives as far as daily routines, rituals, things that your kids are looking forward to, as far as creating a sense of security and stability for them, and things like that. So let's start with just talking about some of the research. Research tells us that routines create predictability, and kids need predictability in order for their brains to grow in healthy and appropriate ways. Okay? That's just the science behind it. When there is unpredictability, when they don't know what to expect every single day, it creates a lot of anxiety. It can create a lot of anxiety. And in my work with a lot of kids doing counseling, I find that to be true, that when there's not a regular schedule, when there aren't really good rhythms in life, they do have more anxiety and restlessness and stress and worry and things like that. And so I talk to kids a lot about, good sleep hygiene, sleep routines, bedtime routines, having a winding down time, putting your phone away, waking up at the same time every single morning. What are the rhythms of your life? And then trying to build on that. I think it's really good for parents to foster that in your home environment because it helps reduce that anxiety for your kids. I'm going to quote from an article that I found from a pediatric clinic somewhere up north. It says, "Children thrive on predictability. When kids know what to expect throughout their day, it creates a sense of security that allows them to focus on learning, playing, and developing essential life skills. Research consistently shows that children with structured routines experience these 5 things." I'm going to list them for you. The first one is better sleep patterns, which I just talked about this week to some other kids. It's like, sleep is foundational to so many other things, right? If we're not getting good sleep, then everything else is going to be affected negatively by that. We can go work out, we can eat right, we can try to maintain all these other schedules, but if our sleep is poor, all those things are going to be off, right? And so kids with predictability have less anxiety, better sleep patterns. This includes regular bedtimes and wake-up times, which help regulate their natural circadian rhythms, okay? And so, you think about kids who get poor sleep, or their sleep is it fluctuates, right? Some days they're really tired, some days they're wired, But if we're helping build that consistency with their sleep patterns, then it's creating this rhythm for them where they're fully awake during the day, they get tired at the appropriate times during the evening, they sleep really well at night, they wake up refreshed and ready for the next day. And that's the kind of structure and regularity that we want to have for our kids.
I remember whenever one of our kids was little, the pediatrician said, I think you can hear me.
Is that on? Is it green?
It's red. I remember whenever one of our kids was little, the pediatrician said, and they were like really little, but they said, tell them they have 10 minutes until bedtime. Mm-hmm. They have 5 minutes until bedtime, 2 minutes. And they may not understand time, but they know that means something.
It's coming, yeah.
It's coming. And instead of just springing it on them, it's bedtime, get ready, let's go. Yeah. We're leaving for school in 15 minutes. Get ready, let's go. Instead of it's time to be at school, we're late. And it just changed. It really does change everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much sleep they get varies by the person, how much sleep they need. Obviously, we know the research says 6 to 9 hours of sleep for kids preferably on the higher range of that. So like, I think our kids get about 9 hours of sleep per night. And even that, sometimes I'm like, you're still tired. You need to get more sleep. But, so I think it's just helping them to, and then also when they have that predictability, I think they sleep better through the night, which helps them to wake up better rested in the mornings. The second thing is improved emotional regulation, which who doesn't want that in their kids, right? We don't want kids who are emotionally dysregulated. We've spent time talking about that before. It says knowing what comes next reduces anxiety and meltdowns. Kind of like that, right? Instead of saying, okay, time to go to bed. Put everything away. Go to bed. Like that can create some tension and some anxiety, right? But giving them warnings about things. I used this example the other night. I was trying to find Eli to tell him to go take a shower and go to bed. And I had already told him, like, hey, I'm going to come get you in 15 minutes or whatever. Well, I came and got him, and I was like, you got to go get in the shower. And he was really upset about it. And it's because I didn't realize he was actually in the middle of something. And he didn't want to be interrupted by that. So we had a miscommunication there. But so one thing that we try to do is just tell them, like, hey, at 8:30 or in 15 minutes or whatever, it's going to be bath time. And then after that, you're going to have bedtime. And just so they know the routine, right? Take a shower, brush your teeth, read a book, go to sleep. And they do that every single night without, obviously, like maybe weekends are different or vacations are different, things like that. But that has to help reduce the chances of emotional dysregulation, right? So when we're springing things on kids or when there's unpredictability, it causes them to maybe be a little more on edge. And so they are more likely to have temper tantrums or meltdowns about things. Enhance academic performance. Consistent homework and study habits or study times build focus and responsibility, right? And so this is one of the things I think about a lot, especially lately when I'm trying to help my kids with their homework. Is I think back to like those days when my mom had that expectation for us. So like you get home, you get a snack, you do your homework, right? So feed your body, feed your brain, get some fuel in your body and your brain, and then continue your learning. And it was great. Like it was like one of those things that was training me to like, you get the job done, and that's how you earn the playtime, right? As opposed to like work being tagged on at the very end, and you have to just like scramble to get it finished, right? And so it's like play is a reward for the hard work. And I think that really did transfer to how I did at school, right? So school was a little bit easier for us, because we knew what it was like to have to like endure something for a little bit longer, right? And sit through something that wasn't very entertaining. Who wants to do a math packet when you get home from a fun day of school, right? But the discipline of, I've got to sit here and get this done, and then I can go get my reward, I think helped me to do better in school. And that's one thing that we try to teach our kids. Is like, if you can be regular with your homework and really just get the work done, then you can earn the playtime, and they need that for when they're in the school day. Not everything is about fun and games and socialization. The next thing is it helps foster stronger family bonds. So when routines are shared, it can create opportunities for connection and for communication. So thinking about like dinner time around the table, what's one thing that our kids have become, they've enjoyed, sometimes we fight about this, but they enjoy doing at dinner time. Talking about their day. Yeah, and they all take turns for the most part, and it's always like Eli's like, can I tell you all about my day? And then, of course, the other two are like, oh, he's going to tell us every single detail. He's like, I walked into the building, and then I turned left, and then I went and sat down at my desk, and then it's like, okay, get it over with already. But they've enjoyed just being able to share bits and pieces about their day. And I think one of the things that helps build for them is social skills, too, because now they have to listen to another person talk without interrupting. They're not always very good at that. So they're practicing patience, they're practicing compassion, they're practicing respect for other people when they're communicating. And then, and so it becomes a shared routine, right? In a little bit, we'll talk about rituals and how that's a little bit different than routines. It's like the special things that kids can look forward to, like a family vacation every spring break, or church on Sundays, or a special thing, during every season or whatever. That creates shared opportunities for connection and things like that. And the last thing is increased independence. So predictable sequences help children learn to manage tasks on their own. That's an executive functioning skill. We are not raising children, we're raising adults, right? And so we're teaching them to be independent thinkers and live on their own and handle life. We want them to be able to go to college or into their careers and be able to manage their tasks and be responsible. And so keeping them accountable to their routines now helps build those skills so they can be more successful later. So any comments from any of that? Any follow-up? discussion to any of that? Okay. All right, let me read this one. This one's from the Children's Discovery Center. It says, why do routines matter? It says, for young children, consistency is more than a comfort. It's a gift that helps them feel secure, confident, and ready to take on the world. This predictability builds a sense of well-being and supports children's growth in many ways. Number one, it provides emotional security and trust. Number two, cognitive development and learning. Number three, building independence and self-regulation, social skills and positive relationships, physical development, and building healthy habits, which we've kind of talked about a lot of those things. But this is all, again, going back to that research, right? What does the research say happens in a kid's brain, their nervous system, their physical body, their emotions, their relationships, whenever we are helping build into their lives rhythms and structures and routines, okay? So now let's look at this handout that I gave you and talk about what this could look like, okay? This first page kind of gives you some more of that background. This article is from, it says, zerotothrive.org is the website. We'll post it in the comments on this video. It's from the University of Michigan. And the first page talks about the importance of routines, why it matters, again, some more of the research and what it does for their brains. The second page, looks like your toner is going low, is the different ways this can look. How can this look in your family's lives, okay? So at the top of the second page, how parents can adapt routines during, it says during the current crisis. How parents can, I'll let you say, establish or implement routines during your children's lives, okay? Without school, family, and regular activities, parents are aware that children still need structure. Here are some tips to incorporate the most significant features of routines into your child's current lives. I think this was written during COVID, so it was kind of just highlighting like the need for consistent routines, even if they weren't going to school or doing all the things that they were normally doing. But all these things still apply today. So the first one, things that we can be doing, establishing routines and rules, okay? Children need to know what to expect each day at home. One way to do that is by creating a schedule. And then it talks about how for some children, over-defined schedules can increase anxiety, so kind of keeping it simple. It does talk about doing things like a morning meeting, maybe sometimes a weekly meeting. We've tried that before. It created a lot of stress and frustrations, okay? So now we just kind of announce the things that we're doing. A lot of times on our way to school in the mornings, I'll tell them, hey, you got this going on today, you got this going on Tuesday, you got this going on Wednesday. I try not to give them too much at one time because I'm like, they're going to get overwhelmed. They're going to think, oh my gosh, I can handle all this, right? It's like, we'll go 3 days out, right? Don't forget you got practice today, you've got baseball on Tuesday, different things like that. And so kind of just keeping kids in the loop about like what's going on in their lives is going to help them to stay informed, and then it creates that expectation, right? Something to look forward to. So if you wanted to do like a family meeting and make a PowerPoint or put it on a poster, that's great. That's fine. Whatever works for your family. But along with that, still going with number one, is about rules, family rules. And it says, think carefully about household rules. Be firm with rules that matter most in the long term. High school kids just got out for lunch, apparently. Wow.
Very quickly.
Yeah. And so rules about how much TV, how much technology, how much screen time, how late can they be on their phones, how much time can they spend out of the house with their friends, things like that. Even as kids, when I was a kid, I mean, we had rules and expectations, right? It's like, go ride your bike. And, during the summer, I'm thinking like, just be home before dark, like that was the rule. But it was a rule. And it's like, oh no, the sun's going down. We have to and I remember times we had to race across town as fast as we could, because if we were home after dark, we're going to get in big trouble. And so it's like not always, defining the specifics, but different things like what to expect as far as you can have an hour of screen time after school, or phones off at 9 p.m., or whatever works for your family. That way kids know what the expectation is, They're going to try to test those limits, obviously. Kids are all about seeing how much they can get away with and how much they can push their parents to bend the rules a little bit. But I really do think they do better, and they appreciate, even if they don't verbalize it, they appreciate having those confines within which they can live, right? Does anybody have any experience with that? Any ideas about rules and limit setting as an expectation?
So with that, we have routines and stuff that we do, and whenever something gets disrupted, Jay freaks out. Like, goodness forbid I said that we're going to have, tostadas tonight, and then it was like, well, we have leftovers, so actually we're going to change that. Like, it disturbs his whole entire mood. And like, we've had to learn how to navigate with like, sometimes these are subject to change because it really does take a toll on him. So he's like, I don't care, like, we're having food. But they do, like, they know as soon as they get home, they have a snack. They know that, like, Corley's a little bit more different than Jay, but like Jay thrives on a routine. He like would rather, I try to like let them like just kind of mentally decompose and like go and watch TV or something mindlessly and then say, okay, now it's time for this, because they just got out of school, right? But Jay does not like to do that. He prefers to like get it over and done with, and then, which rightfully so, like that's fine. But it does hold whenever you do routine and stuff like that. It does kind of.
Well, I think you bring up a good point about adaptability and flexibility, right? Because sometimes we can be too rigid with our expectations and our rules and our routines, and then inadvertently cause our kids to have anxiety when things are off, right? When things can't work out the way. And that's a really important conversation to have. It's just like, we can have plans, we can have, we can be expecting things to happen a certain way, but we also have to learn to be flexible. And when something is off, or when that can't happen, or when the plan has to change, we have to learn to be okay with that and just keep moving on,
And I think with CASP, the after school program, is whenever you mess up their routine and they're not doing what they usually do, it's chaos for everybody. So I feel like kids, like you said, they do thrive on routine, and whenever they don't have it, it throws everything off. And so like it goes school, after school program, church, home, whenever it's different. I mean, that's why crazy days at school, like reset days, are hard for teachers.
Yeah, for sure. The second point is about relationships, and this is really important. It says here, children don't need perfect parents to thrive, but they do need predictable parents. So it really is like a top-down flow, right? If we're not safe and secure and stable for them, if we're not creating that predictability for them, they don't know that they can trust the home environment or even us, right? And so we need to be predictable. And of course, things change. Work, we have work, we have jobs, we have meetings, we have things that we have to go and do. And so there is some room for adaptability there. If we have a late evening CASP board meeting and we're not home to cook the dinner that we were going to cook, our kids have to learn to adapt to that, right? But they can expect that, Dad's going to get home at 6:05 p.m. most evenings, right? And then he's going to help me with my homework, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. Like, if I'm helping create that predictability from myself, then it's going to help them feel safer as well, It says here, their development is best supported by focused moments of positive interaction. Managing your own worries in order to support their mental health does not mean suppressing your feelings. Think about your own stress and coping as a complete loop. Show your children that they can count on you to feel what you feel and transparently adopt healthy coping strategies to manage those feelings when they come up, right? So just kind of showing them that, like, sometimes things throw us off. We get frustrated also, but we're going to show you how we cope with that, right? And that helps create a sense of safety for them as well. The last thing on here is about rituals, which is a little bit different from routines, structure, rhythms of life. So thinking about the routines is like the day-to-day things, right? Like, we do homework at a certain time, we have dinner at a certain time, within reason. Maybe there's like a window of time, I should say. But rituals are going to be some of the special things, okay? So maybe it's like, and it lists on here like Taco Tuesdays or Sunday church services, Saturday movie nights. Rituals can occur daily, or they can occur less frequently. It says here, research shows that, I'm skipping towards the end of that, research shows that rituals buffer the impact of stress and trauma on mental health. Furthermore, rituals that connect children to previous generations may be particularly impactful. So just thinking about like your own rituals, right? Like I said earlier, like every spring break, we go on a trip to do this, right? Or we go, every once a month, we go to the movies. That's a ritual that they can look forward to, right? Obviously, some things can't happen all the time, or plans are going to change, like you said. And so we help them cope with that. And as far as like, well, I know we were all looking forward to that, but it couldn't happen. So what can we do instead? Or how can we deal with that, our feelings about that? Because that's going to happen in their lives as adults too, right? They're going to make big plans. And then, I'm thinking about plans that we've made before. We're like, we're going to go travel. And then you got sick and then we couldn't go to see our friends. It's like, that was really disappointing. And kind of just having that conversation with our kids of like, we had this expectation, it was going to be this special time, couldn't work out. Here's how we're feeling about that. Here's what we can do to solve that, to fix that, Can anyone think of any rituals that you guys have that are kind of like maybe less than daily, maybe less often than that, that you guys do with your families, or that are kind of things that they look forward to, any special things?
We do, after church on Wednesday night, we always go get ice cream.
Okay.
They look forward to that.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about holidays, like Easter's coming up.
Yeah.
We do a little something at home for Easter. We go to church and then we go to my parents' house, and like the kids are like, we're so excited for Easter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because it's like a predictability thing. Like they know what we're gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every June we take this whole big trip with my in-laws, and it's like Jay looks forward to that, Corley looks forward to that, like just all being a family, all in one house. So they look forward to that.
Yeah. Trying to think of, I don't know, when I was a kid, like every Sunday after church, we'd go eat out. Of course, we weren't like, we had a big family and not a whole lot of money, so we would eat at like fast food, But I remember Wiener Schnitzel. Has anyone ever eaten that before?
Yes, I love that.
I'm like, it's a hot dog, but it was like a special hot dog for me, because it's like, we don't have to go home and eat Hamburger Helper. We can go get Wiener Schnitzel, And it was like, that was just a special time, like, it didn't mean a whole lot to my parents, I'm sure. For them, it was like just within the budget, but to me, it was like something different, to look forward to every Sunday at noon or at lunchtime,
Or like our kids, whenever we go on a drive around. Sometimes we'll get ice cream, and sometimes they're just like, can you just go drive around?
Yeah. They like to play this game where we flip through all the radio stations on Sirius XM, and you get a point if you know the song and you can sing it along with the radio. And so they like to try to keep score of like, oh, I know this song, this song. And
almost always turns into a fight.
Yes. But that's their ritual. They're like, let's go for a drive. And can we play the song game? And it's like, yeah, let's go do it. So yeah, maybe once a week or so. But
Somebody left a comment. At least once a month visiting family out of town is what Kylie says.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, that goes back to connecting them to other generations or even outside family. My family, we get together with them, all my siblings and the nephews and nieces once a year. And I mean, our kids talk about that. They look forward to it for months, like, when are we going to see them? It's like connecting them to everybody else, right? So again, just that predictability, and it may not be perfect. It may not happen every single time, but it's something for them to look forward to. And just thinking about like the long-term benefits of that as they become adults, that they're going to have memories like I do, like we all do from our childhoods and things like that. I'm sure you have all your memories from like all your lake trips and things like that, but, so yeah, again, just going back to like, how is this helping our kids to develop and grow in ways that they're supposed to, helping their brains to develop, helping them to develop cognitive skills, social skills, time management skills, learning how to wait for the value of waiting for things, learning the balance between work and play, learning how to, just kind of developing that sense of emotional regulation, right? Where there's not a whole lot of anxiety about life. It's just kind of there. They're just kind of living up this rhythm of it, They don't have to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, And so just as much as we possibly can, trying to foster that for our kids. Obviously, like I said, it's not a perfect world, and we're not perfect parents, and sometimes those things can't happen, right? I think if we're doing the total opposite, and it's like all chaos all the time, and our kids never know what to expect, then we're harming our kids, right? So if we can kind of lean more in this direction towards like providing that stability and that security for them, it's going to pay off for them in a lot of ways. So, all right. Well, that's all I have for today. So we'll join up again first week of April, and we'll post the topic as we get closer to it. So, and yes, we'll upload this one on YouTube. And any other comments or anything on there? We good?
We're good.
All right, cool. Y'all have a good day.